In this video, we are answering your Apple questions. We're talking about Apple Explained, we're talking about M1 on every iPad, ray tracing on Apple Silicon, iPhone XR versus SE, killing the iPad mini, AirPods Max 2 battery life, and 18-inch MacBook Pros. Want the latest Apple news, leaks and rumours? Subscribe and ring the bell. First up, Euri Tech asks, maybe this needs to be brought up, what are your thoughts on this YouTube channel called Apple Explained, and is there a valid reason why people should hate him? Now, I've got to be honest, I understand why people are like, why does this channel exist? I understand why people are confused by it, but this channel is not for people that are watching my kind of videos. A lot of the questions that are asked in the titles are things like, why do you need to charge your Apple Pencil? Why did they release a green iPhone? These are questions that we probably are not that interested in, and that's fine. We don't have to watch them. But this channel is generating massive amounts of views, which is kind of the point of it. The channel, the questions are not clickbait because they are answering the question that they ask in the title of the video. You might not think that we need an answer to these things, but obviously a lot of people are looking for that answer. Or when they see the question, they're wondering, oh, I hadn't thought about that. Why is that? And they're watching the videos, and these videos do inform people. They're in the vast majority of cases, I believe, accurate. I haven't noticed any that have been like wildly off the mark. There's some takes that I don't necessarily agree with, but I think the channel's great. There's nothing wrong with it. Yeah, go for it, man. James Apple, will they put M1 on every iPad in future? I don't think we're going to get it on all of them. I think there's a very good reason that the iPad mini that just came out in September, October, whenever that was, that got the A15 instead of an M1, and I think that if Apple wanted to put M1 in all the iPads, they'd already put it in the iPad Pro at that point. I think they would have done so. I think the reason that they've needed to put an A15 into the iPad mini is mainly because of battery life. I think the M1 would have been too much for the physical size of the battery that you can fit into an iPad mini. However, with the larger battery that you get in an iPad Air or an iPad Pro, I think it's a reasonable choice to do. This is all being said under the context of it's just whatever chip they happen to use in there, and it's about the speed. What I do think is going to make a difference is in future we might see that there are certain Pro apps that are reliant on using the M1 either exclusively or for certain features within the apps. So it might be that you only get 3D fonts, 3D text transitions in Final Cut for iPad when you've got an M series chip in there rather than an A series chip. That would make sense because that lines up with what Apple used to do with the Macs, where if you'd got integrated graphics on your MacBook, you wouldn't be able to access certain features, but as long as you had a dedicated graphics card, then you would be able to access those. Or there was a minimum amount of graphics memory that was required, for example. So I think that's probably the way that we're going with this. I don't think that Apple will probably limit those apps from running on an A series chip, but they might limit certain features within those apps. Maybe things like ray tracing using the neural engines. And Evan Rodgers asks, IK Answers, do you think that we will ever get dedicated ray tracing hardware on Apple Silicon? If so, when? It's as if I'd planned a transition. Dedicated ray tracing, there's been some people that have suggested, could you not use the neural engine for that? And to those people I say, that's a bit beyond my pay grade, but I think we've got a decent chance at WWDC of seeing some more stuff around this. Obviously, we've already seen the invite, which is kind of Swift focused, which is going to be interesting. I wonder if there's a major reason that they're focusing specifically on Swift for this. Maybe they're transitioning 100% to Swift, but it remains to be seen exactly what's going to be coming at WWDC. I think there's a decent chance if we're going to see a Mac Pro and any development hardware for the headset, then I think that's probably something that they're likely to do. I'm hoping that the neural engines is something that could work with that, but it's not something I'm aware of. Although we've had ray tracing on iPhone games for quite some time. I'm sure when we first got some of the stuff where Epic used to come up on stage with Apple, like way back to like iPhone 5S, there was ray tracing built into some of those games. It might just not be dedicated hardware, but it can be done. Randomness asks, IK Answers, thanks for the answers, mate, and keep it up. Also, I don't understand why people buy the iPhone SE when the iPhone XR is selling for $200. I got my parents and my brother who works in construction. The iPhone XR literally paid $600 for 3, and every spec is better in the XR than the SE. No, it's not. The display is definitely better on the XR because you've got the Face ID and you've got, that sort of full screen design, but the SE is much more powerful than the 10R. The 10R has been discontinued because what was that one running? It's the A12, right? No, I think it's the A12. And the A12, you know, it was fine at the time, but Apple's basically stopped making it now, apart from in the Apple TV, which is a single screen that is playing videos off the internet. So I guess the main reason that you would go for the SE is that the SE is going to last far longer than the iPhone 10R in terms of software support, in terms of all that sort of stuff. I think, what's the latest iPhone right now? I mean, we're still supporting like the 6S right now, so I don't think it's on the brink of being dropped. However, that's where the big difference is going to be. You're also going to get much better image processing with the recent SEs versus the 10R, and that's because you've just got the recent image signal processing built into the chip. Having an A15 inside is a massive advantage over an A12. Randomness R also asks, iCave answers, do you think Apple will kill off the iPad mini? Such a useless product in my opinion, and just make the iPhone Pro Max like 7.2 to 7.6 inches. That would be my dream phone. Now, there is a theme with Randomness R. He wants everything to be bigger and have longer batteries. We understand this is cool. However, the iPad mini does serve a purpose. It's massive in hospitality, for example. So a lot of waiters in restaurants will actually take your order on an iPad mini, send it directly to the kitchen. It's small enough that they can stick it in like a trouser pocket, like a big like cargo pants pocket, admittedly, but not but a phone would be different because the aspect ratio is different. You don't get as much on the screen. It's not as good of a product. I also would hate it if the iPhone Pro Max has got to like 7.5 inches. That would be just too big. No, don't want it. Don't want it. You can have it. I don't want it. Randomness R asks, iCave answers, please let Apple make AirPods Pro Max 2 with 30 plus hours of battery life. Most competitive over ears have over 40 hours of battery, including their own Beats Studio 3 and Solo 3 wireless, so it doesn't make sense that the Maxes can't have the same amount of battery life. The thing is, the AirPods Max do a lot more stuff than those other devices, so they've got far better noise cancelling, they've got different features, and I don't know, when do you need more than 30 hours of listening time? That would be one of my questions. Like, I understand that bigger numbers on listening time is better, but if it makes them even heavier, because they're quite heavy headphones already, because you would physically need to make the batteries in them bigger, then is that a good trade-off? Remember that these are metal ear cups, so they are going to be heavier. They're going to also have better sound quality because they're not going to vibrate as much when you're putting the sound through them. Having that extra heft to them is actually there to kind of stabilize them and stop them rattling around on your head. So I think that's kind of where the trade-off is. How often are you going camping and needing to listen solidly for 30 hours between being able to recharge them? That would be my question. Randomness R asks, iCave answers, now that we've got Apple to make a 15.2-inch MacBook Air, any chance we can convince them for an 18-inch MacBook Pro? I just love Apple products. I wish they came in bigger sizes. I'm in the market for Max models, but the current Maxes are not big enough. And there we go. I just don't think an 18-inch MacBook Pro makes any sense for really anyone, because you can't make it any bigger, you know, and scale the battery with it and allow it to be useful, because you wouldn't be able to fly with it, you wouldn't be able to take it on an aircraft, you wouldn't be able to fit it in a human-sized backpack or piece of luggage. We've got an iMac. You could get a backpack with an iMac and maybe like a small generator. That might fit your needs. I know I'm being a little bit silly here, but honestly, the battery size in the 16-inch MacBook Pro is as big as you are literally allowed to fly with. You cannot put a larger battery than that into an aircraft. Now, could they potentially have a laptop that has that size battery, and then you have an add-on pack that adds more battery? Sure, but I guess I just don't see the need for that, if I'm completely honest. Surely once you're getting to that kind of size of device, would you not be better off getting external displays and hooking up to that? Because you're not using it on your lap. You can't fit the 16-inch one on the tray table of a plane anyway to use it while you're moving. So, yeah, just get a desktop. Get a desktop. It sounds like you want a desktop. And Randomness R, I do love the fact that you're asking these questions every day. I'm allowed to take the mickey a little bit when every question is, can we make this bigger, though? Do you live in Texas? Anyway, guys, thank you so much for watching. Patreons are over here. If you want to support the channel by becoming a Patreon, icavedave.com/Patreon. And if you want a cool Cupertino t-shirt just like this, icavedave.com/merch. Thanks to the Patreons. We'll see you in the next one.